are finer than sand, and I think they're going to be really useful for us to demonstrate really big data. So one jelly crystal might be the size of an entire web page or even an entire book and show us what could be possible through giving a lot of data to a really big model. So let's use aeroplane jelly. I've got some blue crystals here, aeroplane jelly. Blue I think we'll use as the internet or the web data. So let's give that one a bit of a label. This is going to symbolize the entire internet, web pages. So every jelly crystal here is a web. We're going to actually need 6 parts of this to demonstrate how much web we put into training a model. Let's try a different one. What about popular web? So for example, if you go on Facebook, or if you go on Twitter, or if you go on TikTok, you're probably going to be referred to things that are a little bit different to the entire internet. It's been upvoted, it's been popularized, it's been ranked by human beings. Let's use Reddit ratings for that one. This is orange jello. Let's call this one popular. And it's going to be about 2 parts versus 6 parts of full web data. The popular web data is going to be fed in to this model as well. Then let's grab a whole bunch of books, not just the fiction books from your library, but also massive academic publications. Let's grab every research paper that we can find and put it in this training data as well. So we'll use a purple box of jello for this one. This is going to be books, and this is going to show us everything from scientific literature to choose your own adventure, to Enid Blyton, to Agatha Christie. Let's lump it all in here. And the last one, despite what your teacher may tell you, Wikipedia is actually a very good source of information. It's been edited by thousands and thousands of human beings that know what they're doing. Any error is shut down immediately. It's actually quite factual. Let's use a green one here for Wikipedia. This is green jello crystals, and that'll give us a smaller part. We'll just use one part of Wiki. This will show us some of the factual content. So that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of data, and we're going to put them in different ratios. Let's pour them into the jar now. Our 6 parts of web might be 100 million web pages, just general websites. Our popular websites might be 8 million web pages that have been upvoted by humans. Our books and papers are millions of books and millions of university papers. And our Wikipedia content is about 6 million web pages. Here's our final product. 6 parts web. 2 parts popular web, 2 parts books, and at the very top there, 1 part of Wikipedia. And different labs are using different weightings for this training data, but let's take this as our entire training data for our AI. The next step is to feed this into the Google Transformer that we just spoke about, the magic black box program that can take words, make connections between them by looking forward and backward in the words, and then come out with what some people are just calling magic or miraculous. Let's see how close we can go to explaining that. And let's put the whole thing in a magic black box, because we don't actually know, and the researchers, the scientists, don't know what happens. They take the training data, they put it in this magic black box. Good morning, Australia time, coming to you live and exclusive once more from Perth in Western Australia. It's going to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit later today. This is a live view of Perth. That's our Perth Stadium on the left-hand side. We just had Manchester United play there a few months ago, actually, without Ronaldo. How many of you are following the FIFA World Cup? But we're not here to talk about FIFA World Cup. We're here to talk about all things OpenAI. Hi to Shalom from Copenhagen in Denmark. Oh, Zalai Latsu in Shanghai. I bet there's a couple of Americans there at least. Midnight in Sweden for Tiberius. Welcome, welcome. I'm wondering just how impressive this model really is. That this might be maybe a bit of a low interest model compared to GPT-4. Just realizing I have to update my text ticker. GPT-4 has been rumored to come out now sometime, was due in August 2022. Now they're saying perhaps December, perhaps all the way through to February. Let's see. Let's update our ticker here. New model. This one is called text-davinci-003, and we're going to play around with just how cool this model is. There we go. Hey, that's a lame ticker. There we go. That must be better. Have we got hi for Ava in the USA and Post Bunny in Virginia? Cool. Love Virginia. That's a better ticker. All right, so you might remember the paper about Instruct GPT. This was when GPT-3 was combined with reinforcement human training. So they gave reinforced learning by a human feedback that is RLHF. And they found a number of benefits from getting humans involved to help fine-tune or even train GPT-3. They found better results when it wasn't needing to be creative. So it wasn't needing to generate a poem or be a chatbot. Instruct GPT, what was previously called, or now called text-davinci-003, was called text-davinci-001 and 002. You will have been using text-davinci-002 by default for the last year or so. It came out in January 2022 and it was set as the default. So if you've used the playground or if you've used GPT-3, you will be using this model, and there is a newer version of this model released about an hour ago. I've just been sitting with it for a bit. There's no paper, so we'll just play around with what we think it can do. 84% more truthful for these Instruct models. It's got more knowledge, more up-to-date knowledge. The Instruct 002 was through to June 2021 with its data set. And of course, you've got that larger context window. It's about twice as much context or words that you can both prompt and respond from the model. And it's 58% less hallucinative. So you should have less crazy results coming out from it as well. Let's jump straight into a demonstration so that we can have a play around with this here. Oh, hi from West Wales. That's really cool. Let's jump in. Yeah, this will be a bit more of a Q&A because I'm not sure how exciting this model actually is. It's definitely not GPT-4. This is just the newest version of GPT-3 released today, the 29th of November 2022 here in Australia. Probably marked as the 28th of November for the Americans. Up the top, I've got text-davinci-002 spitting out a standard answer with a low temperature. Where is Atlantis? I'll run this again because it's nice and standard. It's almost deterministic. It'll give the same answer. There's no real answer to this question. You'll see if I run that more than once with a temperature that's 0.3, we're getting very similar results. Here's text-davinci-003, just released just now, and we'll run this and we will mark the differences here. Let's run this one more time. So we're getting slightly different results with text-davinci-003, which is kind of interesting. Even though they both have the same temperature, I might knock this down to 0.2 and see where we get to. OpenAI have said that the benefits of this model are that you will get longer form writing, so that you will be able to generate essentially essays, maybe even books, or at least book chapters. Okay, there's the difference with a really low temperature for both. 2 sentences for the latest text-davinci text-davinci-003 model. I will be jumping in for answers in just a moment. Let's grab OpenAI's email that they sent about this. And we'll throw this into a Google Doc so that we can have a stare at it. I don't think they will have updated all their examples online, but if you run any of the examples, most of those examples were designed by Andrew Main at OpenAI. If you run those, you may be able to update the engine, and we'll play around with that in just a moment. All right, coming back to our screen share. This is the email that came out from OpenAI that you will have all received if you're subscribed, but it spells out what we should get from the benefits here. And here they are: higher quality writing, more complex instructions, better at longer form content generation. Let's throw that in our streamer. Excellent. Definitely not GPT-4, because GPT-4 is going to absolutely explode onto the scene when it gets here, but it is going to be an exciting update and a instant update for people that are already running apps that are powered by GPT-3. So if you've got an application that's already hooked up to the API here, and your app is already running, you will be able to just go and change the string, the engine string, text-davinci-002 to text-davinci-003. And as we saw already, the playground is defaulting to text-davinci-003 when you come into it. So not on this window, but on this window. As soon as you come into the playground now, you will default to the latest model. Excellent. Question from Core Art: how many tokens can be input and output with this one? This is exactly the same. It's 4,000 tokens per request, the same as Instruct GPT text-davinci-002, which you can still get to by clicking Show More Models and popping that one open. This is the third generation of the Instruct GPT family, if you like, and it provides a number of benefits. It's got more truthfulness. It hallucinates a lot less than Classic DaVinci, has this larger context window, 2 times larger than Classic DaVinci, and it brings in about a year more knowledge. If it is following text-davinci-002, its dataset stops in June 2021, which is pretty much okay, but we'll play around with that now and see what it actually can do. I mentioned Andrew Main earlier. He's one person to follow. He's got a great blog where he goes and talks about, that's his actual website, but you can find his blog where he goes and talks about how he's using GPT-3 personally. Obviously, he is representing OpenAI, but his writing is really practical. So he'll go and walk through how to build in Whisper, how to build games using the Classic DaVinci or Code DaVinci. He talked about intelligence in the GPT-3 model. He even talks about how to make sure that you're getting quality responses. There's a really, really fascinating way of ensuring that the model is not lying to you by performing some checks while it's responding. Recommended, Andrew Main, blog.wordpress.com. Let's grab one of his examples. I believe that he played around with most of these examples. So I've just clicked examples at the top of the playground there. I'm going to grab this summarize for a second grader, open that in Playground, and it is now automatically defaulting to the latest text-davinci-003. And we will run this example using the latest model just released about an hour ago. Let's go and run that same example in text-davinci-002. See if we can notice any difference here. Show more models, text-davinci-002. This was the older engine that people were using probably for the last 2 years or so. Okay, not huge differences there. Let's see what we can find. I mentioned there's no paper for this, so there's no academic writing that we can go and reference to see what they've actually changed, but you'll see in the ticker there, higher quality writing, it'll take more complex instructions, and also it's designed for longer form content. Let's grab this create study notes here, open in Playground. We'll default to the newest engine. What are 5 key points I should know when studying? Ooh, that one is pretty boring. What shall we study? Let's study text to image generator models. Make sure we have the AI keyword in here. Awesome, that is text-davinci-003. Let's pop that back into text-davinci-002 and see what we get. I'll be taking questions next. If you've got a question, throw it in the chat. But we're very much live and flexible today. This is text-davinci-002 with a temperature of 0.3. We get 3 examples here. Text-davinci-003, the newest engine, gives us 5 examples, but they're not as fleshed out. Same temperature. If we rerun it, we do get the much longer output. I've noticed I've got my maximum length there set to 150. Excellent. Great note there from Zero Relevance. Just tested the new model about one of my more niche hobbies, Chinese fantasy web novels. It knows a ton more than DaVinci 002 did. I'm guessing they've increased the training data substantially. It's certainly possible. We've got a few ways of looking at the data that is inside GPT-3. You probably have already seen my What's in My AI paper, which looks at the data set that was in GPT-3. No one else has actually looked at it in this way before. Let's see if we can crack open this PDF and have a little look through. So GPT-3, DaVinci was trained, you can see it quite easily in this graphic here, was trained on 11 gig of Wikipedia. These are my numbers, 21 gig of books, 101 gig of academic journals, 50 gig of Reddit links, and 570 gig of Common Crawl. OpenAI have not released the actual dataset or even the specifics of how they've trained these text-davinci models, these Instruct GPT models, but just analyzing the top 50 domains inside GPT-3, I came out with a lot of Wikipedia, grabbing different parts or different domains from the upvoted Reddit links, Google, Archive, Blogspot, GitHub, the New York Times, WordPress, as well as very specific domains in the Common Crawl, duplicates of New York Times, but then we go through more media like Los Angeles Times and The Guardian. We've got a lot of journals in GPT-3, which is why I believe it's far higher quality than AI21's Jurassic 1 or some of the other models there. If you want to download this one, it's available at What's in My AI. You can Google that, or it's at the LifeArchitect.ai site. Yes. OpenAI will tell you cute and funny stories. I think what they've tried to do here is make this more usable by people that are not trained in writing prompts, non-computer programmers, non-software developers. So let's try that out right now. I've got a couple of use cases in mind. One is writing a foreword for a book. This is quite a challenge to do in text-davinci-003. It gets there, and it's even more challenging in classic DaVinci. Let's keep our temperature, at about 0.3, that'll be fine. Let's bump our length up there all the way to maximum tokens, although that might stop itself. We will, let's show probabilities just for fun while it's writing. Keep in mind, this costs 2 cents per 1,000 tokens, so you can expect, including the prompt, to spend about 8 cents per complete, as in fill the entire screen response. Write a foreword for a book on the life of, he is top of mind at the moment, Tony Robbins. Let's leave it at that. So no trailing space when we're prompting GPT-3, because all of our tokens have preceding space. You could get way more creative with this prompt. So you could tell it how long you want it to be, what you want it to feature, etc. Yeah, this one is true. Let's back this off a little bit. 3.5. Let's drop some names here because it makes it easier for the model to look through its data set and find writing styles. So let's say this one is written by Walter Isaacson, who did Steve Jobs' biography. I hope you've already read it. 2011, Steve Jobs. It's just a fascinating read. That guy can write. I mean, he spent his life editing and writing. This is Walter Isaacson. And the book about Steve Jobs is fascinating. So let's ask it to at least know that the book is by Walter Isaacson and maybe to copy that style. So if it does fill up our page here and get close to 4,000 tokens, it will cost us about 8 cents. I'm going to see if this will allow us to run. I'm sure you've seen it whinge before that it's finished and it's got nothing else to write. You can sometimes get it to write by just allowing it or giving it a prompt to continue. Actually, that's a really nice dump there, isn't it? Forward. Tony Robbins is a name that is known around the world. Name drops Walter. Let's see if we can get it to continue, or without the trailing space would be nice. Doesn't want to write much more, but we do get to 439 tokens there, which is maybe about 400 words, 350 words. What are we doing here? We are playing around with the very latest model released by OpenAI about an hour ago. It's called text-davinci-003. It's the default now in your playground. If you've got an app that's using GPT-3, you will need to update your engine by either changing it from DaVinci to text-davinci-003, or I wouldn't recommend doing that because those models are very, very different. If you're already using text-davinci-002, it's very easy to update that to use text-davinci-003. Jacek, could you try some comparison of chatting skills, persona-based, between 003, 002, and original? Yeah, this is a really interesting challenge because for some reason, Instruct GPT, and we'll have a look at here, is not that good with chatbots. It's almost like the reinforcement by human instructions makes it not so creative when it comes to chatbots. Let's try it anyway. This is the LifeArchitect.ai/Lita page. And about halfway down the page here, I provide a link through to the prompt. Here it is, recreating Lita in the OpenAI playground, link to the Lita prompt in OpenAI's GPT-3. So I do use Classic DaVinci for Lita. I've been using Classic DaVinci since we started more than a year ago now. Much more than a year ago, nearly 2 years ago. But you can see here, if we say, hi Lita, we get these nice responses. She won't actually know what GPT-3 is, but we get these nice responses that seem to sound like a human. Let's bump it into text-davinci-002 here. And it's almost like the chatbot gets lobotomized. Lita is not proving my point here. I have had a lot worse outputs here. It may be that OpenAI have played around with the outputs from text-davinci-002 since then. Here's text-davinci-003 with Lita. I'm noticing that the outputs of the model are very, very fast. If you've just joined us, you've got the ticker down the bottom showing the main 3 improvements with text-davinci-003. Lita is being pretty smart here. Text-davinci-003 on top of Lita. I'll just ask her, what are you doing there? It may be worth running around and trying text-davinci-003 or Instruct GPT with chatbots now. It might be that OpenAI have added something or changed something that allow the chatbot to perform even better. Let's grab one of their examples from Andrew Main's design. This will run straight into text-davinci-003. You'll notice that still, OpenAI's GPT-3 performs so much better than the other models, and I don't know why that is. I think there's just a lot of polish at OpenAI's end. Compare GPT-3 with something like AI21's Jurassic 1 model, which is there in the purple on the left. It came out pretty much immediately after GPT-3, and it used, well, they said it used the same training data set. They aimed to emulate the training data set of GPT-3, but it's just lacking that polish. So I wonder if OpenAI have basics like spell check and grammar check, punctuation check, capitalization check, all of that stuff running. And then maybe it's got logic checks as well, because other models don't have their spelling, grammar, capitalization right. Other models don't have this smoothness of output that I'm seeing in GPT-3, including today's Instruct GPT model, which, as we've seen already, 58% less hallucinative, twice as big for the context window, 84% more truthful. Here's OpenAI's Marv, the sarcastic chatbot, which is one of their examples that you can pick out yourself. Running with text-davinci-003, reluctantly answers questions with sarcastic responses. Was Google too busy? Let's do it. What time is it? Come on, Marv, give me the answer. Always time to learn something new. They haven't given us any injects here. That's not nice. Let's see if Marv knows where Atlantis is. Oh, my inject didn't have my enter key in there. That's another fun part of doing live streams is that you get to see all of my mistakes. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, it's because I got them backwards. It is not playing with me today. Enter first. All right, come on, Marv. Where is Atlantis? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not in my living room. Look, it may be that text-davinci-003 is ready for prime time when it comes to chatbots. Don't write that down. Don't quote me on that, but it certainly looks that way. It certainly looks like it's able to do chatbots and creativity a lot better than I would have imagined. Let's try another example. Let's jump back into this playground. We'll keep our bump our temperature up to 0.6 or so. Let's write a poem about, what shall we do? The ocean in Perth in summer. Oof, that's what I'm thinking about right now. There are models that are actually achieving rhyming right now. Now, GPT-3 won't be able to do that just because of how it's set up by both tokenization and training. But you'll see that this output, not bad. I might end up dumping this into a file that we can go and all read after this, but this is the output for a poem about the ocean, a Perth ocean in summer. Let's see how it goes with rhyming. Let's make sure I've got my maximum length up here and I've got my temperature up here because it's giving me some, it's giving me I've copy and pasted the URI there and it's bringing the example including its hyperparameters, so I didn't really want to do that, but that's okay. Let's turn our probabilities back on so we can see them. Write a poem about YouTube live streaming at 7 a.m. Perth time. Well, let's just do 7 a.m. Make it rhyme. Not expecting it to, oh, maybe. Wow. It got the first little phrase here to rhyme. A YouTube live streaming session at 7 will give your audience a chance to see heaven from the comfort of their home, a show for them to watch and roam. An early morning wake-up call to the start of your broadcast hall. Your video chat with fans at large will become the newest charge. And then its rhyming completely dies. I believe that if we had run this with text-davinci-002, I just want to keep this, so I will dump this out to a shared document. I'll make sure you get a copy of this shared document. Let's run this on DaVinci 002 and see what's going on. This live stream, this entire context of what's going on here with the model is really difficult for me to do without a paper and even without a blog post. So we're doing everything off the seat of my pants, or however you want to say it. I think we just discovered that Instruct GPT, the newest engine, text-davinci 003, can where it couldn't do that with text-davinci 002. Definitely no rhyming there. Write a rhyming song about, what have we got going on in the zeitgeist at the moment? Oh, let's do Elon Musk and Twitter for fun politics. Rhyming song in the style of Eminem about Elon Musk and Twitter. Let's do it. Temperature at 0.7, and he'll make this as long as possible. Now, I'm not going to be singing this for you guys, but I will read some of this out because it looks like it's done a really good job. Elon Musk, tech mogul, time's a ticking. Twitter's the tool, shares his vision without missing. It moves so fast, ideas come a-flowing, gets it done. Watch as he keeps on going. Soaring ahead, he's never settling down. With his disruptive thinking, he'll turn the world around. This might be a really interesting model to play around with if you are designing poems, rhyming poems, or songs. Excellent. How are we going for questions? Anybody want a peanut? Well, I could actually go some breakfast. That hasn't really happened here yet. Jim Brewer, not a programmer, just fascinated to see how educators can integrate AI into their teaching and learning. Yeah, that's a fascinating question, Jim. There is a little piece that we will just watch here while I take a break, where Microsoft went into the classroom with Dolly, and I just thought it was so fascinating that I will replay it here.
Who here has a big imagination? Today in class, we're going to think about how we use our imagination to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. Grab your marker, grab something to sketch with. Think about what matters to you and something that's going to do good for the world.
What matters to me is like buying rising people, but I would design like a house that I can still like unseal it for like rocks you could like pull after like brings that something down.
My idea is an electric cable that can keep moving into us.
Probably a soccer ball that has life so people who are out can play with it and art.
We can take plastic that would go into the ocean and make it into a new shoe.
These ideas are amazing. I cannot wait to see your idea come to life. We have some friends that are working with some technology that's going to make that happen. Should we go check it out? Alright, come on! This is so exciting. Who's ready?
My idea is a club that helps clean up the creek. What we do with all the trash is make it into colorful stuff. The world could be better with no trash than more trash. This idea, there's like a garden on the moon. We can use those gardens for biofuel. Our idea is to walk a school that has an ocean.
Okay, that's a confession for that knew exactly what you need.
A robot to go in space and pick up trash.
Keep waiting for the world you want to see. Keep thinking about big ideas. That can
Oh,
make
if
a
we've got bad
difference
audio,
for
then we won't play that. I'll find a different way to play YouTube videos in the future. I will drop that YouTube video into the chat because it's amazing. It's Microsoft walking into a classroom, probably with OpenAI as well, and they allow the children to come up with their own inventions. Then they enter that into Dolly 2 and they show these inventions on screen, inventions that have never existed, weird inventions. They even emulate what the children look like and are wearing, because that's what text-to-image models can do. Fascinating stuff. If you're in a classroom environment, educational environment, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, whip out Dolly 2, whip out Stable Diffusion with the censorship and safety on, of course, and have a play around with just how that one works, because children are very creative and they can jump into this straight away. A lot of them have been brought up as infants with iPads, so they're good with devices. But you can also allow them, older students, to play around with the text models, the large language models like GPT-3, to compare and contrast what an essay would look like with and without the models. So with my work with large academic institutions, universities and colleges, we're having to redesign the way that the curriculum is delivered, because testing on memorization or creativity or writing an essay is no longer relevant. So that's going to be a really fun one to see in a year or two. How are we going to actually address this? How are we going to play around with teaching children, teaching students, teaching adults, when a lot of the content now can be generated in a flash? Let's try that right now. This is the latest model from OpenAI, released about an hour ago. It's called text-davinci-003, and it is based on the Instruct GPT model. Write me an essay on data engineering specifically. I'm thinking back to my computer science degree, which some of the essays were just so silly. Let's find a part in here. There was a lot of stuff around compression. I'm not going to get too specific on this one, just see what it can do generally. Obviously, you can get way more specific than this. You can tell it to write about a particular niche, and it will do. Winsome Hacks asks, can you tell that GPT-3 it's about to interact with, say, a 10-year-old child? Absolutely. That's a really good point there, that we want to tell the model what to do. We're not going to ask the model what to do. And one of the examples that we just ran through, and it is in the example section of the playground, is summarized for a second grader, which might be a 7-year-old here in Australia. Don't know if we've got another. Nope, we don't have another example there. Let's explain like I'm 10 years old. What is a fairly complex thing to understand? You might be able to find out how to explain the wireless spectrum for me. 2.4 versus 5. Let's see. A big highway in the sky. There we go. Maybe that's for a 5-year-old. 2.4 gig is like a slow lane, and 5 gig is like a fast lane. That's not bad. If you just joined us, we're using the very latest model via OpenAI. John says text-davinci-003 beats 002 model by, what is that, 1 billion times? Would be fun to pair this stuff with AR. There are a couple of instances where people have been putting this in place with different games and with VR. I don't know how many of you have seen the FIFA AR overlays where you can hold your phone up in the stadium and it will overlay the players' names. And the players' positions. You can see this here live. Imagine something like this with overlays of GPT-3 driven facts. You could overlay this while you're walking around your city, and it could tell you details about buildings as well as trees or nature. It could even write a poem about people as they walk past, or it could give you a summary of your grocery store or the history of particular buildings. All of that's possible right now. We're waiting for people to build it, essentially. You're looking at the FIFA in-stadium app where you hold your phone up over the live action and it gives you overlays of players and details of the pitch. Really cool. Not so related to GPT-3, but certainly will be. BT Franklin says, I've been using the new model and have been able to get it to do amazing things that the 00 version couldn't do at all. Yes, we just now got it to rhyme. You will have seen it doing both the Eminem rhyming and the poetry rhyming. I think I may have cleared both of those. OpenAI says that this is higher quality with its outputs, with its writing outputs. that it allows more complex instructions. So you can give very specific details on where this essay is going. Write me a 2,000 word essay for my education master's degree, focusing on, let's not do creativity in the classroom, let's do the future of education with AI. I would love to read that text-davinci-003. Thanks for the comments in the chat. Zan says, write a layoff letter in the prose style of Dr. Seuss. Let's try it in just a moment. I think this is going to hit our 2,000 word limit that I asked for. And if you're wondering what those colors are, this is listening to the full spectrum of probabilities. So every time it writes a word, it guesses the probability of that token or that word showing up. So here the word ultimately had a 3% probability, but because our creativity is quite high, our temperature is quite high, it's chosen that word instead of the word with. You'll find some of our green examples here, like conclusion. We're usually going to finish the phrase in with the word conclusion when we're starting a paragraph. 98.8% of the time, 98.9% of the time. We could also have in summary, in sum, in the, or in short. But sometimes I like to color the probabilities to see what's going on. Excellent. There is our essay specifically for master's degree on the future of education with AI. I will make sure that I put a copy of this shared document in the description in a moment. All right, let's try Zanza's here. Write a layoff letter for, what's going on? Write a layoff letter for Twitter employees in the form, or in the rhyming prose style. Let's do that, of Dr. Seuss. Let's keep our temperature down a little bit, 0.4. You can do it as long as he likes. I'd love to read the paper on this because I'm really interested to know what dataset they've used, what type of reinforcement learning they've applied, and how they've got it to rhyme, whether they've adjusted the tokenization or something else. Dear Twitter crew, we've had a great run. It's time to be done. We've had to make a tough decision. It's time for a new mission. We'll have to part our ways. It's time for you to blaze. Your skills and talents are great, but it's time to open a new gate. We wish you the best. Your future will be blessed. We'll miss you all, but we must take the fall. Sincerely, Twitter management. That's so brutal. Let's do this for, take this out to our shared document. Let's do this for a Twitter employee. Cool, this was a really accidental find and a really fun accidental find. To see that the model can do some really cool rhyming. Oh, that's a fantastic question. Will this model also improve the quality of whisper transcriptions and summarizations? From Joe Pryan. I don't believe so. They haven't noted any change with Whisper. If you haven't used Whisper, you need to use Whisper. It's right there. Let me copy and paste this one out as well. It's right there in the top right-hand corner, speech to text. I don't know if I've got my microphone listening properly because I've got about 4 or 5 microphones going on here, but it can listen to a really heavy Australian accent. I can even try and sound like Steve Irwin, and it will give that to us verbatim. That's a real challenging one. I've seen some examples where people have given Scottish accents really thick and heavy Scottish accents, and it's also done really well. But it's a great point. Let's use Whisper for our next prompt. Write me a book chapter on the rise and fall of social media, including Twitter 2022. Excellent. So the temperature here is important. You can play around with this. This is creativity. They're calling it how it controls randomness. If we were asking for facts, we might set this down at 0.1, 0.2. If we were writing really weird artistic poetry, like experimental poetry, we might want it to be as creative as possible, up towards 0.9. Let's do this as 0.4, I think will be fine. Fantastic. Our book chapter there, I think, is only about 400 words, maybe less. It's a fun one, though. And it says, asks, can it mimic someone's tweet style like Elon Musk? Absolutely it can. It can even mimic very little known writers, in particular journalists. So you can pick a journalist, say from the New York Times or from The Guardian or from elsewhere, and you can ask it to write in that style. Given that text-davinci-003 released just an hour ago is super smart, you won't even need to tell it how long a tweet is or what a tweet is. Write a tweet in the style of, I really don't like giving this guy attention. Let's, who else have we got that's stylistic in Twitter? Maybe no one else. I would prefer to give this guy attention even above Elon Musk. And let's not get political, but I think even he wouldn't be anywhere in my top 1,000. The fake news media is doing everything in their power to try and discredit me. They will fail. Excellent. Let's find an older person that may not be around anymore. Write a tweet in the style of Steve Jobs. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. So GPT-3 is known for quite a while what Twitter is, what a tweet is, certainly knows who Steve Jobs is. So it knows we need to fit into 160 characters or so. It knows that it likes to use hashtags, etc. Ooh, Rodney Dangerfield, that would be fun. Thanks to that suggestion from Era Siegel. Dangerfield. They say I don't got no respect, but I don't even get an invitation to the party. Shame, that could actually be him. I wonder if that exists. We've talked before about how GPT-3 generates unique content. Most of the time, maybe all of the time, you'll find that things that are outputs have never existed before, including this tweet from Rodney Dangerfield. Doesn't exist, but certainly sounds like it's in his tone. Fine, AFAQ2. Alan, you're absolutely amazing. I remember the first time I saw you and Leader's interactions. I was so intrigued that I binge watched every episode and subscribed to your channel. If you guys are sitting there watching every episode, that is a really long time. I think we're at episode 65 now, and they average 10 minutes. Let's get my calculator out. I will admit maths not my strong point. 10 minutes by 64 episodes is about 10.6 hours of Lita. But then you've got all of the auxiliary videos as well, like the First Look series and the Integrated AI series. I know for a fact that the YouTube channel right now has about 24 hours of content that you could sit and watch. I know that the Lita stuff is fun, so thank you very much for that comment. Point of GPT-4, how about asking engine itself for tips for perfect prompt crafting? Let's try it. Let's dump this out into our shared document, just in case we want it later. let's even give it a count, provide 20 tips on prompt crafting the latest GPT-3 model using the text-davinci-003 engine. And you'll notice that it even numbers its tips. Oh, this one thinks we're talking about training it. I don't really want that one. What did I do wrong here? People call it prompt crafting. Come on. Just made some small adjustments to my prompt here so it doesn't think that we're engineers working at OpenAI training a model overnight or over many nights. They say that GPT-3 trained for, was it 3 to 6 months, maybe more, the equivalent of 200 and something years. If they are training GPT-4 right now, and perhaps have been for several months, given that they're using the latest supercomputer and one of the biggest supercomputers in the world from Microsoft, they may be able to speed that up. They're using a supercomputer from Microsoft that has 10,000 GPUs and 285,000 CPU cores. That one is able to run stuff in parallel to the extent that you might still be able to train for 300 years, but you're able to do it in a month or 2 months instead. Here's our output from provide 20 tips on prompt crafting the latest GPT-3 model. We didn't get to, oh, we did get to 20. Sorry, text-davinci-003, I doubted you for a moment. It's not actually giving us what I want though. I want real examples. Ah, wow, that's nice. John says, wouldn't it take 8 months plus to train GPT-4? Absolutely. It depends how many parameters it has. The rumors at the moment are pretty varied, pretty broad. You can have a look at Metaculus for predictions on how big GPT-4 will be. It now has to align with chinchilla scaling. I don't think I have a picture of chinchilla scaling to hand, but the chinchilla model here is down at the bottom right, center bottom. It had 70 billion parameters trained on 1.4 trillion tokens. So if we applied that same concept to GPT-3, they should have trained on a lot more tokens. I think it calculated out they should have trained it on 2,000 billion, so 2 trillion plus tokens. It would be even more than that, wouldn't it? 3 trillion tokens. I calculated it out to 7 terabytes of data just to hit 175 billion parameters. I think I might have messed up my token count there. That's okay, we're live streaming. What that means is I can't tell you how long it'll train, how long it'll need to train, because we don't know the token count, the parameter count. If it's going to be 1 trillion parameters and it's densely activated or it's dense as usual, we can say how many months that would take or definitely how many hours that can take. If, as one of the rumors is following, if it takes a sparsely activated model, which is going to be a lot different. It'll go to particular portions of that AI or that model for particular prompts, and maybe it's even more parameters. Maybe they're going to hit 10 trillion parameters. The training of that is very different. It's more parallelizable, and at the moment, I can't tell you the cost or the dollars or the time. Once we know the size of that, and of course, once we have the paper, OpenAI historically has been very, very specific about how they've run the training, how many GPUs they've used, and if they're following along with their colleagues like Meta AI, who even released a training log down to who showed up on what particular night, what went wrong during the training, how they had to restart, how they picked up from different checkpoints. Really cool, really good example there from Meta AI. If GPT-3 or GPT-4 follows that in that paper. So OpenAI picks up on that level of transparency. That would be absolutely fantastic. Winsome Hacks, the one thing I can say for sure about GPT-4, it's got a lot to live up to, absolutely. John says, I have a feeling they're going to shock the world with 20 plus trillion parameter models like they did previously. It would certainly be a possibility. If we go back to our look at the models here, all of the models down the bottom right were trained with the chinchilla data optimal concept. So that means that they used more data for less parameters, which they should have been doing all along. But it means now, even just to hit the basic 175 billion parameter size of GPT-3, they're having to do things 10 times or 11 times more. 11 times more data, 11 times more compute. So if we said that GPT-4 was going to be 11 times bigger than GPT-3, that's going to take the same amount, it's going to be the same size, and it's going to be 10 times harder to do. Esteban, I'd be interested in a streamlined model that could have all text on the internet, but imagine that text has a lot of image board level rhetoric. Yeah. The streamlining really is part of this Instruct GPT concept. And let's see if we can dig up the Instruct GPT paper. Well, for now, let's dig up the Instruct GPT report card that I did back in July. Remember the model, the original text-davinci-003 was released in January 2022 after it had been through a round of beta testing. We actually don't know the model size or the token count. I'm just relying on what we know about standard or classic DaVinci. The model size, I gave a C. The optimization, again, we don't know about that, but guessing that they have not come to chinchilla levels here. The data set they did talk about in the paper that it aligned with GPT-3. And we got some improvements here on truthfulness and certainly openness. The API is available pretty much anywhere. We've spoken already about just how useful this model can be when it's applied to a standard application. Let's go and dig up the paper just for fun. If you enter Instruct GPT in your browser, you will get a copy of that paper that shows up in archive.org. We'll crack this open in Chrome. So OpenAI talked about really the benefits of using Instruct GPT over the classic GPT, but they didn't give a lot of details on the data set or even how they trained it. We know that there were humans involved. We know that those humans may or may not have come from Amazon Turk workers, but they gave a lot of metrics on how this model was better than classic GPT. Must be very interesting to watch me scroll through a paper here. Recommend that you go and have a read of the older Instruct GPT paper if you want to have some insight into how that model is better than classic GPT. But like we mentioned, it is the standard now. You will be using it whenever you touch the playground because it shows up by default. Ahmed is putting some more specifics in the prompt. I like that idea. Let's see if we can copy this here. Right, let's do a 1,500 word essay about something funny that happens. Thank you to Ahmed on this one. That happens to, wow, my typing. Let's copy and paste this. So the specifics here is that Augment is asking for the 3-act plot structure. We'll keep this as a lower temperature with a smaller maximum length here, a token count of 150. So this, you might be able to see this as an overview rather than the entire play or short story. Excellent. Just for kicks, let's run this same prompt on GPT text-davinci-003. Yeah, it will follow those instructions quite nicely. One of the benefits of Instruct GPT text-davinci-003 right now, and someone noted this in the chat, is that most app developers probably haven't updated their application to use this new engine, so it's very, very fast because there are not as many users on this. If they've given this a standalone computer, a standalone VM where it can run by itself as opposed to classic DaVinci and text DaVinci 002, then it makes sense that if we've got less users on it, it's a lot faster. Nice to see them put some focus on reducing hallucination and lies. Yeah, this was a big thing when this came out in January 2022, was that it was 84% more truthful based on that human feedback. Let's get some definitions on this feedback actually. So when we talk about, give me a new window here. When we talk about the changes of Instruct GPT-3, it is because of this RHLF. Which, if you are confusing your words or confusing your characters, should have actually been RLHF. Of course, because we're talking about reinforcement learning. Where the agent or the model is provided with human feedback during the learning process in order to help guide the agent's decisions. Fantastic. Well, we'll leave that sit there for a moment because this is really why text-davinci 003 and the entire Instruct GPT series is better than classic DaVinci. Using this reinforcement learning with feedback, we get 84% more truthful, 58% less hallucinative, and separately up the top there, they are aligned with Anthropic's principles of being honest, helpful and harmless, useful, truthful and careful, which you can get through this RLHF. BT Franklin, I have some results that are way too long to put as chat messages. Yes, absolutely. What you can do, and I could have been doing this as well, is you can click the share button, and once you've given that a name, you will be able to have a link there and you can copy and paste that link. So I will dump this into the chat window. If you want to click on that, then you will probably get the exact prompt that I just spat out. You will have to log in, but remember that your first 900,000 tokens are free. And you'll get the prompt that I spat out as well as text-davinci 003's response, because that was stored as part of the prompt in the saved link. Peter, GPT-4, how do they measure truthfulness and hallucination percentages? I think that was all human ratings. They used the Likert scale, which I believe is a human rating scale, label collected metadata, and human humans rated hallucination on Likert scale from 1 to 7. Let's give this one to text-davinci-003. There are a lot of people that are using GPT-3 as Google. I don't know if you use it yourself for Google, but it might be something that you want to play with. Obviously, the results are not up to date. It does not have web access, and it doesn't know anything after June 2021, at least for text-davinci-002. But in some cases, there's no ads, there's no sponsored posts, and it may be cleaner with getting the exact result you want if you normally rely on Google cards. Likert scale is a psychometric scale used to measure people's attitudes, opinions, and perceptions. So this was very much a human rating on both hallucination and truthfulness. 84% more truthful, 58% less hallucinative than the classic GPT-3. Alex Zavala, Dr. Thompson, this is so awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This is a very much live stream in the moment. I've not been able to read a paper because they haven't released a paper. I've not been able to leverage a blog post because they didn't even write a blog post. The only thing they've given us is the email that you should have received. It was about an hour ago now, maybe 2 hours ago now, because we're an hour into the live stream. Doesn't have any formatting here, so it may be a little bit difficult to read from my paste from the email. Well, we might be able to give you some formatting. Let's see what's possible here. I feel like that might be just a little dangerous to show my inbox. Let's go without formatting. They've only said it builds on top of our previous Instruct GPT models and improves the number of behaviors important to devs. Those 3 behaviors running along the streamer in the bottom. Higher quality writing, which means clearer, more engaging, more compelling. More complex instructions, more creative. Better at long form content generation. And they gave some examples which we can replicate right here. Let's put text-davinci-002 up the top here. Let's make this a really strict or deterministic output. This is OpenAI's own example here. You'll have to excuse my screen setup here. I'm trying to get it all into the one place. So we use the same setup here. So text-davinci-002 gave this answer to the query, to the prompt. I'm trying to write a web application. What backend frameworks could I use and what are their pros and cons? And this one, text-davinci-003, same query, far more specific. You can use number 1, node.js. Here's the pros and cons. Number 2, Ruby on Rails. Here's the pros and cons. Number 3, Django. It ran out of tokens, but we'll give them some more. Pros and cons for Django. Very interesting. And we have asked it to continue, but it doesn't really want to continue. I'll give it the prompt of number 4. Oh yes, it's going back to my day, ASP.NET. Wow. That is a very long time ago. Well, the original release was anyway. This was one of my first languages. I started with ASP Classic back in 2004. It was my first job as a consultant. Interesting to see that it's still going. It's got a stable release in February of this year. Not a fantastic language. VB script for ASP Classic. I don't know that much about ASP.NET, except that I don't remember that much about it, except that it was fairly painful. But it is the 4th option that it gives us for a backend framework that we can use for a web application, versus GPT-3 text-davinci-002 just giving us a short list. Really interesting. John says, I try to Instruct 003 even adds details to the code, even better than Codex for some reason. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I can't tell how long we've been live streaming, but I'm going to wrap up. Oh, here we go, 1 hour and 14. I'm going to wrap up with any questions you've got. We might let this sit with some rhyming poetry. Let's do, I really liked the Dr. Seuss stuff, but I don't know if I want to do that one again. Right, rap lyrics in the style of Dre about, in my mind at the moment is only the Twitter stuff and only the AI stuff, which is my day-to-day. I have been following the World Cup. Let's see what it can do. Oh, it did not do very well at all. And you know why it didn't do very well? It's because I'm using the old model. This is a great comparison here. Right, rap lyrics in the style of Dre about FIFA World Cup. We get no rhymes with text-davinci-002. And thank you for the warning there, new place to frown. Let's move to text-davinci-003. I don't like that one. And if I don't like that one, I'm welcome to rerun it. Let's do it in the style of Eminem. I know he's got some rhymes. This is like Chinglish. Fantastic. I'm a fan of the FIFA World Cup. It's the greatest show on earth. The players are so talented, they make the game so worth. Wow, that's fun. BT Franklin, I think it rhymes best when you give examples of rhyming first. Yeah, a few shot prompting is usually beneficial. What they've said about text-davinci-003, and one of the reasons that they gave text-davinci-003 more points, if you like, was the fact that it could do more without giving some examples. So it could do more without few shot prompting. Right, rap lyrics in the style of Eminem about the dangers of live streaming. And what do we have here? The things that can go wrong. Live streaming can be a thrill, but it can also be a kill. It's a double-edged sword, so careful what you say, because it can come back to haunt you in a major way. I love that. That's fantastic. People still asking about GPT-4. I know nothing about GPT-4. There are some fantastic rumors that are out there. Robert Scoble, who is one of my favorites, used to work for Microsoft and has still been sitting in the technology world maybe for 20 years now. He was sitting in the first Tesla, or he gave us the first look at the iPhone. He has been really prolific when he's been talking about technology, particularly devices. A little bit for AI, he's certainly been catching up, but he's talking about having a colleague that already has access to GPT-4. Now, Scoble is usually quite enthusiastic and passionate, so I don't know how real this one is. He's not always on the money with rumors, but the general belief right now is that the GPT-4 model will be released between January and February next year, or maybe December this year to February next year. The release of the text-davinci-003 model today, in some ways is kind of surprising, right? Because if they've got a new model ready, why are they releasing this kind of middle model, this GPT 3.5, if you like? There must be a reason for it. They're keeping the same pricing. This is still 2 cents per 1,000 tokens, but I wonder whether GPT-4 model is going to be released, let's say at least sometime in the next 30 to 90 days. I'm looking forward to it. Any questions before we wrap up? An OpenAI employee whistleblower that says, oh my God, it's sentient. I really hope not. I think a lot of people were shocked by the media picking up the ex-Google engineer that was going out and talking about sentience for the Lambda model. The Lambda model is actually smaller than GPT-3. You can see GPT-3 here in red on the left, and Google's Lambda model in blue just below it might be about 20% smaller, and certainly not as effective. You can compare some of the outputs with the Lambda transcript with the Lita transcripts or the Lita videos. Cool. Any more questions before we rock and roll out of here? Please try this model yourself. Please have a go with what the model can do. It's got higher quality writing, more complex instructions. No one told me about that horrible misspelling there, but it's already been corrected. Longer form content generation. So you can now write entire chapters, 4,000 tokens, should be about 3,000 words. That's easily a foreword or a chapter that you can play with. We've just noticed that it can do rhyming now. It can certainly spell out different parts of a prompt, so you can get really complex with your examples. It is about to hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit today here in Perth, which is 37 degrees Celsius. It's going to be a beautiful day. Thanks so much for joining us. I really don't comment on sentience, but I agree with Pierre there. GPT-4 is believed to approach AGI. Absolutely 100%. And I will be one of the first to be talking about it. I'll certainly be live streaming about GPT-4 as soon as we know about it. The rumor is sometime December this year, which is only 2 or 3 days away, through to February next year. Thanks so much for joining us. I'd love to have you join in the memo. We've now got users all the way from the big universities, the big labs like Microsoft and Tesla. We've even got government departments. I'm obviously not allowed to talk about those, but there are readers that set public policy. Keep in mind, I'm not designing the memo for academics or government bureaucrats or data scientists and AI engineers inside these labs. I'm designing the memo for you. I've got thousands of readers in there. I'd love to have you as a paid subscriber. Let's jump out and have a look at that one. See you in just a moment. My new 2022 end of year AI report will be released to paid memo readers in the next few days. See you soon.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Love artificial intelligence? Excited by the explosive progress of integrated AI? I am. Join my private mailing list, The Memo.
Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get priority access to my articles, videos, and behind-the-scenes tips as soon as they're released, with a monthly or annual subscription.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
LifeArchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.